video is about the exam itself. 10 tips about the exam, not necessarily about the preparation, the big preparation or the revision and so on, although that will be touched upon, but it's actually that short period of time in and around the exam. I've looked at 3 tips the night before, 3 the morning before, 3 of the exam itself, and 1 after the exam. So, first one, the night before, be organised. Really important you do this the night before and you're not rushing in the morning. First thing is check your exam timetable, check where the exam is, check how long the exam is, and of course check the start of the exam. What time does it start, what time does it finish? You also pack your bag the night before. Again, it seems quite obvious, but you don't want to be rushing around trying to find equipment. Some exams you may need specialist equipment, you may need a calculator, obviously pack some water with the label taken off the bottle. And in terms of food, it's really up to the exam officer whether you're allowed to take food in. You can't take food in that's going to disrupt others, like a bag of crisps for obvious reasons. I suggest you use food as a reward. You're not using it to fill your bellies. You've done that before, you can do it after the exam. So I suggest that you put 2 Polo mints on your table. Start the exam, if it's a 2-hour exam, have 1 Polo after 45 minutes, carry on, have another Polo after another 45 minutes, so it's an hour and a half. And then you've got half an hour left into the exam. So you're breaking your exam up with a small reward. Something that's missing from this page, which is fundamental for exams, is of course the pens. Now I always suggest to my students that they take 5 pens into an exam. And when I say this, the students tend to almost always buy the same pens. They look probably like that. And they go into the shop and they think of 2 things. They think black, because they have to be black pens, and then they think cheap. Well, I think this is wrong. I think it needs a little bit more thought, because if I was to say to you doing 10 GCSEs and 2 exams for each GCSE that's about 2 hours long, that would be 40 hours of writing. So if I was to suggest to you that you did 40 hours of running, a running race, did 2 marathons, whatever it may be, 40 hours of running, would you go into a shop and think, I know what trainers I'll buy, I think I'll buy some that are cheap? Of course you wouldn't. You'd want to get ones that are comfortable, and that's the sort of running trainer that you will get. Well, my advice to you is get a pen that is comfortable for you. I would trial out about 4 or 5 different pens. Doesn't matter about the cost. An expensive black pen is probably going to be about £1 as opposed to 20p. There's not a huge amount of difference when you're only buying 5. Investing £5 into your exams for me seems quite a simple one in terms of, yes, I will do that. So road test some pens and then say, right, I'm going to have 5 comfortable pens that I feel, when I'm writing, I feel that they're comfortable for me, they're not just cheap. Second tip the night before, what to eat and drink. A lot of research has been done on brain food, what's really important for your brain and memory. They talk about walnuts, avocados, they talk about fruit, blueberries, salmon, tuna, fish. I would suggest, yeah, that's really good in the long term, but actually, if that isn't your food, yes, think healthy body, think healthy mind, but actually don't change your diet too much, okay? You're not going to start eating things and it doesn't feel comfortable, so if you don't eat that brain food, I wouldn't suggest you change your diet now. What I would suggest is you avoid eating too much and you avoid eating too little, okay? Your brain, when you're digesting, okay, it uses energy. It devotes some of its time to break that food down. So therefore, don't eat too much, because your brain's doing something you don't want it to do. Likewise, you need adequate fuel. Okay, like a car needs petrol, your brain and your body needs fuel. So don't miss a meal or have something small to eat. Have what you're used to, but it's something that's not going to sit in your stomach and upset you. And of real importance is drink water. Again, you need hydration, not too much, not too little. Finally, the third tip about the night before is what and when to study. Before I do this, the most important message that you've heard many times, I'm sure, but the night before an exam, this is crucial. These social medias are mass distractions. So the night before an exam, silence all social media. If your friends are true friends, they will maybe wanting to text you, to message you about the exam itself. Oh, I'm feeling nervous, or I'm excited, have you done this, haven't you done this? You're actually wasting a whole load of time. So speak to your friends and say, do you know what, the night before an exam, I don't even go near my phone. I don't even need to check my phone. After the exam is when I can do that. So absolutely silence all social media. But in terms of revision, yes, you should do some revision the night before. Again, some research may say that you should not cram. But not cram doesn't mean do nothing. So I suggest that you concentrate just on the exam itself. So if you have a geography exam, just do that geography revision the night before, don't think too far ahead. Use the Pomodoro method of revising, 25 minutes on, 5-minute break, 25 minutes on, 5-minute break. Reread your notes and self-test, okay? It's not a time to learn new information because then your brain really will struggle and that will put you in a mode of panic. So just read through your notes you've already prepared and test yourselves. Ask yourself a few questions in these Pomodoro sessions. Finally, go to bed at a reasonable time. Okay, what is a reasonable time? I would suggest 9:30. It's not too early, not too late. But actually, if you're going to bed at that time, just before bed, actually lying in your bed, just read through your notes before you go to sleep. 30 minutes, no longer, but that can stay in your memory for the exam itself. Tip 4 is the morning of the exam. So we've done the preparation the night before, the morning of the exam, lastminute.com. What do you do? Well, there is still time to do a little bit. I'm not saying get up 5 hours early and start reading through everything, start making notes and so on. I don't think you have time to do that. But likewise, some people say, hey, just get up, have your breakfast and go to the exam hall. I think you're missing a trick. I think there's time just to try and remember some things. So, wake up 30 minutes earlier than normal, whatever time that may be. Then you can read through your notes, okay, for 30 minutes, and hopefully that will then be absorbed into the recall that you can put down on the paper. Have a decent breakfast, same rules apply. You don't want to have too much that you're feeling not very good in the exam, but likewise you don't have too little. Okay, really important that you don't start feeling hungry in the exam. That is not healthy at all. And of course, as we've said, make sure you leave early and get to school early. Get to the exam hall or around the hall within plenty of time. If you're running late for anything in life, there starts to be a panic. On exam day, you don't want to panic. Tip 5, positive visualization. Really, really important because you need to have belief in yourself. You really do. However difficult you think the exam is going to be, you have to go there thinking, do you know what, I can do this. This quote from Henry Ford, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. It's so true. How many times you've said I can't do something and then you don't do it? I suggest you say I can do this and then you will do it. It is all about seeing yourself, recalling the information, remaining calm, remaining in control and believing in yourself. Morning of the exam, focus on yourself and what is best for you. I've speak to students about being selfish. Well, it's not necessarily being selfish, but you know what, sometimes it's necessary to just think of you. This is your exam, your preparation, this is your future. Don't think about your friends or other people, think about yourself. And what I mean by that is grab a friend, someone that cares about their studies as much as you, not one of your mates who doesn't care about studies, because they'll try and prove, even then before an exam, they'll prove that they're not interested in school, they're trying to be too cool for school. You know the people I'm talking about. Don't hang around with them, break away from that, talk to someone that can do some small, lightly testing quizzes. Just ask yourself a few questions, and if you don't know the answer, don't worry yourself, and again, don't get into panic. These aren't big questions, they're small questions. And avoid anyone that is panicking. They're not doing you any favours. One of your friends is, oh, I'm really nervous, I'm really nervous. Your first instinct may be to support them. Well, actually, again, think about yourself, because they're not doing you any favours, and it is your life and your future. The exam itself. So arriving at the exam hall and being in control. You see this, some people think this is it. I want you to go in not thinking this is it as a wobble and a panic, but this is it, and I'm in the power position. I've done everything that I can, and I'm going to smash that exam. How do you feel like that? Well, arrive early. Again, gets rid of those nerves. Stop using your brain. Stop trying to teach yourself what pi r squared is. If you don't know it, you're going to walk through the exam hall. You need to be prepared for what you do know. Make sure you've been to the toilet. I'll come back to that in a second, but you don't want to waste time. Organise your desk. Some people just sit down and they don't think about the desk. Okay? It's your space. If you want to be powerful, make your space as big as it can. So spread yourselves out. There's your polos, there's your drink, there's my 5 comfortable pens, there's the paper. I'm going to sit up straight in my chair and I'm ready for this exam. Listen closely to what the invigilator says. Okay? It is exam specific, subject specific, so some details might be crucial. And lastly, when you hear the invigilator says you may start, one deep breath. That's giving you the power and confidence and self-belief you're going to do well. You open the page, breathe out, and you start the exam. The exam itself, questions and answers, really important that you read every question at least twice, even if you think you know what it is. Last year there was a question on inspector calls about describe what Mr. Burling's character. Some people had revised so hard on Mrs. Burling, they missed off that one little letter, only read it once, wrote about Mrs. Burling, and of course that whole exam answer was, they couldn't mark it. You know, they would get 0 because it wasn't about the character. You need to read every question, however easy it is, at least twice. But also, answer the ones you know first. This is key because otherwise you will spend too long, and it's poor time management, spending a long time on one question. 2 years ago, there's a maths question called Hannah's Sweets. It's quite infamous in terms of the hardest exam question in the history of exams, certainly in the history of maths. There was a talk on the internet that 5 accountants, all with maths degrees, together took them 2 hours to get this answer correct. So a 15, 16-year-old in a maths exam could take you 2 hours and might not even get it right. Move on and then come back to it. Drink water throughout the exam. Not too much. Why too much? Because otherwise you will leave the exam hall and you're going to feel bloated and you're going to need the toilet. So not too much water, but just sip small bits of water to rehydrate yourself. Actual exam itself, checking your papers. Absolutely crucial that every minute of every exam is used. The worst thing you can do is put your pen down with 30, 40, an hour, 50 minutes to go and then do nothing. Because you're not going to be allowed to leave the exam early, so you'll be sitting around looking, and that's not good time management. Don't waste your time looking around, don't waste your time going to the toilet. As I said, go beforehand. No one should go to the toilet during an exam. Plan at least 15 minutes at the end that you can check through, and if you finish early you may have longer to check through. Attempt any questions that you've missed, that we've talked about. Check your grammar, check your numbering, check your handwriting. Someone's got to mark these papers. So in that time that you're sitting doing nothing, you can check your handwriting, maybe cross out a word, write it neater. We've all got poor handwriting to some degree. When you've been writing for 2 hours, that handwriting will worsen. The most beautiful people with that handwriting, it will still worsen. So look through, check your grammar, try and get those extra marks. You're always looking to get, I call them grade boundary marks. If a D is 45 marks, and then a C has to be 46, there's always 1 between each grade. If a level 4 in maths and English is 48%, then a level 5 is 49%. How can you get that 1 extra mark? Keep thinking until the exam stops. You may feel like that sometimes. You look at a question, Hannah's Sweets for example, and think, I can't do it. My strong advice is, you can have a go at it. So you've read the question once, twice, read it again, read it 3 or 4 times, and then write down a few simple notes. Write down anything. Hannah's Sweets was about probability. So you write probability down, and then you maybe write a probability equation down, and then all of a sudden you may, and it should trigger some sort of brain recall in the system, and then the details will follow. Okay, so don't give up on something. Start to try and trigger your brain into thinking, yes, actually I do remember something about that. Don't give up on any questions. Lastly, after the exam, Orpheus and his wife. Okay, this is Greek mythology. You have to just bear with me with this one. Okay, Orpheus had a beautiful wife he loved to bits on the upper world. Unfortunately, she ended up going down to the underworld. Okay, and he lost her. So he travelled all the way through the underworld, very dangerous place, and he found her. And the Lord of the underworld said, you can take your beautiful wife back to the upper world on one condition. When you walk in front of her and you never look back. If you look back before both of you in the upper world, you will never see your wife again. Orpheus, delighted with this, so he battled his way through to the upper world. He just managed to get up from the upper world. As soon as he stood into the upper world, he put his hand back to look for his wife, to give her a hand up into the upper world. Of course, he's looked back and his wife was lost. Not just for a second time, but forever. The moral of the story is, never look back. You finished your exam. The worst thing you can do is leave the hall and then say, what did you put for question 4? What did you put for question 5? Because unless it's your last exam, there'll be another one following. Have a breather, have a break after the exam, park that exam and concentrate on your next one. You're not doing yourself any favours asking people what they put, because do you know what? You don't actually know if they were right or wrong. You may just be right. So don't look backwards. So finally, the tips. Be organised. Check your timetable, pack your bag, and make sure you've got 5 comfortable pens. Food and drink, not too much, not too little. Silence all social media. Never use it. Speak to your best pals and say, do you know what? Let's not text each other tonight. Let's not social media each other, message each other tonight. Because it just isn't worth it. Wake up 30 minutes early, read through your notes. Positive visualization, no panic, focus on yourself, do what is best for you, it's about you. Manage and control your exam desk, one breath, start the exam, feel powerful, feel empowered. Read every question at least twice, do the easier ones first, come back to the harder ones. Check your paper, leave at least 15 minutes to do this, and waste no time in an exam. You got 2 hours to an exam, do it in 1 hour 45, spend 15 minutes checking. And lastly, never look back. When your exam's done, it is done, look forward to the next exam. I hope you get the results you deserve. Thank you very much for listening.